Hi folks, you were Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. This will be a bit of a shorter one, this one, but just talking to, I guess you'd call him a classic sort of rich kid, maybe not super rich, but certainly in the well-off sort of stakes. So the son, I think he's just turned 30, of some friends of ours, and he's like been to the, these people are quite well to do, $5-6 million house plus weekenders, expensive vacations, all that sort of stuff. And the kid's been to one of the best private schools in the country, went to university, did a pretty soft course actually, but it was all paid for by the parents. He wanted to buy this $1 million apartment years ago now, and parents gave him a 50% deposit. He wanted to get a fancy car again. They paid half of it, and they furnished the place for him with some top brand name furniture. And if he hasn't got enough money to go on a 5-star vacation at the end of the year, they'll give him money to do that. So he's been, he's very privileged, well looked after, and hasn't had to go out of his way. So he's I wouldn't call him a brat necessarily, but not far off it. He's very entitled. But anyway, he's when we'd sort of go over there, and if he was there, which sometimes he was, he seemed to be trying to sponge off his folks, pretty regularly, but with little bits here and there. And I've got a new girlfriend. Can you give me money to buy her a nice diamond ring? That type of shit. So he was often there when we'd have a barbecue, have dinner or something with them, and there'd be other people there as well. But when it came to talking about globalization policies, mass migration, black, brown peasant migration to the West, he was very quick to jump onto the, are you Hitler or something? That type of thing. And he was in support of these policies, globalist policies, ideologically, not from any practical or was it sensible? Did it economically work, or was it socially beneficial? No, it was just purely ideological, and that came across. But the wealthy people have got this natural buffer against, or the more wealth you have, the bigger the buffer you have. And I think it only delays the day of reckoning. The poorer, the working class white people and middle and lower middle class white people, they were the first to be hit with the effects of the mass migration. Loss of job opportunities, their neighbourhoods being completely changed. The brown and black people have been given legal preference over the white people, and so on, and their standard of living being torn to pieces. And this is something that the working class white people and middle class white people are the big losers from globalization. The globalists know this and knew this at the outset. This is why they're always talking about white supremacists and Nazis and fascists, Hitler, because they know that the people that are losing the most from globalization are the white people. And so they're sort of getting out ahead of the curve and saying, you're all Nazis, and if you complain about it or oppose it or even question it, you're Hitler, and that sort of thing. So that's all part of the psychological managing and conditioning as they continue to push ahead with the globalist project. The reality is all you people have been totally disenfranchised. Your standard of living is going down the toilet, but that's too fucking bad because that's what we're doing. And if you don't like it, you disenfranchised little fuck, then we're going to call you Hitler. So that's where it's going. But the wealthier people have a bigger buffer against it, and they live in neighbourhoods where there's hardly any non-white people. Non-white people who are there are quite well behaved, Communist Party generals from China that keep to themselves, or Indian Brahmins, that sort of thing, again, who keep to themselves. So they kind of don't spoil or despoil the neighborhood. So again, it's something that they don't, so they're not affected by. But the effect will come. It's just taking longer to bite. That's all. And these people, like the low, the working class and lower middle class white people, it's going to hit them. It's again just going to take a bit longer. and they'll see it firstly in the effect. I think they'll see it firstly in how it's affecting their children. But so here's this guy. He works for. Oh, he's got some job. I'm just trying to think what he does. I think it's something to do with like asset valuation or some shit like that. But anyway, he's always been a staunch advocate. And if ever I mention the mass migration or anything like that, he quickly either infers or say, "Are you Hitler?" and "Are you a neo-Nazi?" and this sort of thing. Insults that he just hurls out as part of the ideological conditioning that he's had. It's not like he's thinking about it or anything. But recently, he's got his boss is now somebody from the subcontinent, the Indian subcontinent, and with a very thick accent, a recent arrival, a recent migrant who in this kid's view, his kid, he's 30 now. This guy's view is unqualified for the role, certainly less qualified than he is, and there's also been a brown woman who's been hired, who is, I think, is one of his peers from the sound of it. So, she's not his boss or something like that, but she's been given a much better office with a better view and just a nicer office, more up to date furniture. So he's feeling hard done by. He's got an unqualified Indian boss with a thick accent, and he's got an unqualified, as he sees it at least, an unqualified brown woman. And both of them are affirmative action hires. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But who's been given sort of, he thinks, preferential treatment over him. Now, I don't think he'd be a super hardworking guy or conscientious. He ain't no genius. But I don't doubt, given his description of what's happened, I don't doubt that they're both these brown people are affirmative action hires, and he's missed out purely because he's a straight white male, and that's clear. Now he's now crying and boo-hooing into his coffee cup about how mass migration doesn't really work, and why are these people, not so much that mass migration doesn't work, but why are these brown people being given preference over him? That's really his point. He's saying that's not fair and it's not reasonable. Why would you give a less qualified person the job? Why would you choose a low qualified person to fill the managerial role? Or he thinks his colleague, the brown woman, is useless or worse than useless, and so on. So it's hit him quite hard. You can tell it's sort of been a bit of a shock to the system, but it's a natural extension of the mass migration and the replacement of white. It's a natural extension of that. Now, in asset valuation, or this particular company or business that he works for, which is a smaller division of a multinational, and probably the diversity and inclusion department hasn't quite got to that smaller division yet that they have now. And he's now feeling the effects of it, which is missed out promotions, benefits, employment benefits he's not getting, pay rises he's not getting, and that sort of stuff. He also is complaining of little things like at meetings now, everyone has to all the white people have to stay quiet and let the brown people talk first, and you can't interrupt them. They can interrupt you, but you can't interrupt them, and this sort of thing. And he's also complaining about that. So I rather enjoyed his discomfort, because this is a guy for years who's been calling me a Nazi for saying that mass migration is no use or no benefit to the Western society. But he's now, I wouldn't say he's come around 100%, but he now sees that, well, these are the negative effects of mass migration. They're now affecting me personally. So he's now told, well, maybe there should be a pause on migration. Why should brown and black people be treated any different? Why do they get affirmative action benefits? So if we've got to have affirmative action because we've got mass migration, and let's stop the mass migration so we don't have the affirmative action. So he's now starting to see how the pieces interlink and interlock, and something that I thought would have been obvious, but telling people about it, explain it, and no matter how patiently and carefully and in what detail you explain, they don't get it. They just blurt out, "You're a Nazi," because that's their conditioning. But now it's driven home to him. He's sort of changing his position. I'd say, within the next 12 months, he'll be quite a vocal opponent of mass migration. And he's maybe not a rich kid, certainly a well-off kid. And I just think it's taking longer to get to the well-off people. The working class and lower middle class white people, they felt the shock of it almost straight away. Whereas people like this who are shielded by their wealth or the family wealth, it's just taking them a bit longer, but it's getting to them. I'll talk just one other example. A sort of well-connected socialite type woman, again from quite a wealthy sort of situation, married into a lot of wealth, and she does things like teaches yoga and meditation and all that sort of fucking shit, and she's like a vegetarian and so on, but she had a more prestigious than a well-paid gig to do meditation or something somewhere, and the place that was employing her to do it, they've decided that in the interests of political correctness and affirmative action, that they have to use a brown woman to do it. So they've invited this white woman to leave, and she sort of quite enjoyed doing it, or enjoyed the prestige of it and all that sort of stuff. So it's hit her actually quite hard, but she's doing the same. Why should this brown woman get the gig if she's not any better than me? She's got less experience. She's only getting it because she's brown. And again, this is someone who is, again, has been very quick to point the finger. You're a Nazi if you say anything about black and brown peasant migration. But now it's hit her. Now she's starting. So I think we're not far away from the upper middle class starting to feel the pain, whether it's them directly or their children, because some of them are nearing retirement, or they're part of the socialite class that are immune from these sorts of things, or are given such generous severances that they don't care. But this is something that I think is now starting to go in, starting to progress into these upper echelons. Remember, these people where the entry level, as I mentioned a number of times in other videos, the entry level of buying property is $3 million for this level, and most of them around the 5 or 6 million, sort of that's their main property. That's before you look at their weekenders in the mountains or down the coast or something. So they're very well to do, and this shields them, and it shields them from the reality of what's happening. But that reality is, in some cases, starting to bite. And it's interesting how quickly they change their perspective. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.